So we've all been there. You wake up with 1,000 things to do. You spend all day with this background anxiety. And as a result, you are either extremely busy throughout the day, or you completely ignore your problems and you spend the day on social media. Even in the case when you spend the day being busy, you often come to the end feeling empty, unaccomplished, and just as anxious as when you started.
Welcome to the Willpower Podcast.
So why is it that you can be productive and busy all day without feeling like you got anything done? In the next 20 minutes, you will get a deep understanding of why your days are busy but empty. A quick lesson from Benjamin Franklin, and a simple 2-minute action that will leave you feeling productive, accomplished, and most of all, peaceful at the end of each day as you wrap up and go to bed. So you've probably experienced this thing that we're talking about, spending the day trying to do the things that are important, but just being busy, just doing whatever comes up in the heat of the moment, and getting to the end of the day and being like, what did I actually do today? What happened? What was the important thing that I did? It felt like I did a lot, but nothing's done. I know for myself doing this, I often end up feeling like a hamster on a wheel. I'm just doing stuff, but nothing ever changes. I'm just running this wheel, staying in the same exact place that I'm at. It's like I'm putting out fires every day that just pop back up the next. Nothing ever changes. There's also a hopelessness with it. This feeling of like, oh, I'm working so hard. I'm trying so hard, but I don't go anywhere. I just stay in the exact same place. Nothing changes. So why does this happen? We are going to talk about 2 different people here that are going to help us understand why these things happen and what we can do about it. So first, let's talk about Dr. Peter Gollwitzer. So Dr. Peter Gollwitzer defined this thing he calls the intention behavior gap. So basically the intention behavior gap is the difference between what you intend to do and the thing that actually happens. That's exactly willpower, right? Willpower is our ability to collapse that gap, to make it that what we want to have happen actually is what happens. Then we're going to talk about implementation intentions. So let's talk about his study. So this is a landmark study on breast cancer screenings. This was a real world study. These were real women who were a part of this. And they all had one thing in common, which was they all genuinely wanted to perform a monthly breast self-examination to screen for breast cancer. Now we put them into 2 groups. We have the control group and the planning group. The first was the control group. So again, they all intend to do the self-examination. Most of them are all in. They all want to do the self-examination. However, over the month of the study, only 14% actually did it. Now we have the planning group. This group was asked to state exactly where and when they would do their self-examination. For example, if it's Monday morning after my shower, then I will perform the exam. 64% of this group followed through. So again, we started with 14% in the first group, in the control group, 64% in the planning group. This is a massive difference. This is a 450% increase from the people who did not plan ahead to the people who gave a clear, if this is happening, I will do it. A when and a where. That's huge. So this gives us our first lesson, how to collapse the gap between the intention and the actual action. But now remember, our problem isn't just that we aren't doing the thing we want to do. The problem is also that we're doing all these other things in the midst of it. So our next problem is figuring out, how do we define what it is we want to do? And how do we do it in a way that is super easy, something that takes 2 minutes that we can do every day and repeat? For that, we're going to go back to the 18th century. So in 1706, a boy was born in Boston, Massachusetts. Over his lifetime, he standardized the U.S. Postal Service, created a best-selling encyclopedia series. He showed the world that lightning was actually electricity. And as a side note, at the end of his life, he helped write the U.S. Constitution. Every morning, this man would ask himself, what good should I do this day? Now, this one question helped Benjamin Franklin take extremely high leverage actions that had incredible impacts on him and the entire world around him. He was at the time one of the most influential people in the world. He was considered one of the best writers in the US, one of the best philosophers, just top overall thinker, industrialist, everything. He was such a multifaceted human, and a big piece of it was because he thought in this way. What are the things I can do today that do the most good? What good shall I do this day? So we're going to use this really high-level thinking like Benjamin Franklin combined with the implementation of Dr. Gollwitzer. We're going to combine them into a 2-minute action that is going to help us live out the days that we want and feel peaceful and accomplished in the process. So here's what it's going to look like. Every morning after you brush your teeth, spend 2 minutes planning your day. 2 minutes. And now I'm going to break down exactly how we're going to do this. At the top of your page, you're going to write, "Today I will." And then I want you to sit still for a moment. Take 15 seconds to just sit and just really recognize what is the most important thing that can be done today that pushes my life forward. This could be something like what Benjamin Franklin would say, what good shall I do today? It could be something like, what's most important to me today? What action could I take today that really pushes me forward? After you sit still for 15 to 30 seconds, I want you to write down the top 3 things that came to mind. If there are only 2, that's okay. If there's only 1, put it down. But I don't want you to go beyond 3. 3 is the most number of things I want you to put down here, because typically we have really important things that we can do that are very easy actions. It's, just a few things, and we're avoiding them. And that's what this Benjamin Franklin type of thinking helps us do. It helps us realize what's the really important thing that we've been avoiding that we're not doing. And that's what we're usually filling with busyness. We're doing all these other things, cramming our day because there's this one thing that we're avoiding. And that's what that first part does. So now we have 3 things. We've thought like Benjamin Franklin. Now we're going to pull in Dr. Gollwitzer. For each of these 3 things, you're going to list a when, a where, and a biggest obstacle. So you're going to say when you're going to do it. You're going to say where you're going to do it. And you're going to write down the biggest obstacle in your way. Oftentimes, when we think about doing something, we don't think about, okay, what is going to get in the way of that? What's the hard thing that's going to actually stop me from doing this? And that's where all the bad things happen. When something comes up, everything goes out the window because we didn't plan for how do I get around the obstacle. So that's the third piece. For example, I could have a list of 3 things. I could be prepare for this week's podcast. Could be send my girlfriend a cute text message. Maybe it could be going for a run. Let's say those are my 3 most important things for a given day for the just what's going to push my life in the direction that I want it to be. I would write those down. Then I would come up with a when, where, and a biggest obstacle. So let's say for podcast preparation, I say after I get my coffee, I'm going to do my podcast prep, and I'm going to be sitting at my desk. My biggest obstacle is going to be my email inbox, because I know for me, when I open my email, it takes over. And so knowing that ahead of time, I can actually prepare, and I can say, okay, I'm not going to open my email before this. And if I do, I'm going to be aware that it's going to try and take my attention. And so I'm going to really focus on not looking at my email and just doing my podcast prep as soon as I sit down with my coffee. So that's it. That's our action. To go over it quickly again, you're going to sit with yourself for 15 to 30 seconds. You're going to write your top 3 things that you want to do today that are really going to push your life forward, thinking in this really high level Benjamin Franklin type of way. Then you're going to use Dr. Gollwitzer's method to pick the when, the where, and the obstacle for each of your 3 things. This all is going to take under 2 minutes, and it is going to make the biggest difference in your life and the way that you feel as you go throughout your day. And at the end of the day, you get to rest easy knowing I did the most important things today. So let's tie that back into the podcast as a whole. So the study itself shows just like exactly what willpower is, exactly how we define it. It is the ability to do the things that you want, to make happen the things in the world that you want to happen. Everyone in the study had a clear objective, a clear thing that they wanted to accomplish, and yet many of them didn't do it. And I'm sure that everyone listening, I know I can relate. Carson, can you relate? Just knowing what you want and not being able to follow through with it is a huge problem for all of us. And what Dr. Gollwitzer found is there's this very easy way to compress that gap, to make it so that you're much more likely to actually do the things that you want to do. So last week we defined our will, and this week we used Benjamin Franklin to help define our will, because he was someone who had such a huge will and had such huge willpower because he was able to basically transform the way the world worked at the time and change the path of history. He had this insanely large will that he was able to put into effect. And a big part of defining that will for him was coming up with what he thought was good. What shall I do today that is good? So that's our action. That's how we tie back into the show. This is a way to actually take your will and put it into action on any given day. So now, biggest step of this podcast as you're listening is to commit to yourself that you are going to do it. Decide today, I am going to do this. And of course, it'll be tomorrow morning that you actually do this. If you're willing to come aboard, say it now. I will do this tomorrow morning. Say it out loud. If you're in public, say it anyways. We are going to do this tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, we're going to write on a piece of paper the 3 most important things that will push our life in the direction that we want it to move. We're going to write the when, the where, and the biggest obstacle for every action. That's it. Of course, you might write them down and say, okay, now I'm actually going to do these. That's not part of this challenge, though. We're making this as simple as possible. It is just that activity, that 2 minutes. Now, as you do this, as you decide to do this right now, remember the feeling. Remember what it's going to feel like tonight. Remember what it's going to feel like tomorrow night after you do the activity and you lay down in bed and you say, wow, I defined all the most important things and I did them. That's a game changer. There's no more of this productivity, busyness nonsense. It is just clear, decisive action that is defined clearly. I know exactly what I need to do. So say it out loud and you're in. Tomorrow morning, we all start. Now, as a reminder for this podcast, how we do things, every week we are going to come up with a new action like this one. I try to find the simplest, most straightforward actions. Last week's took 1 minute. This week's took 2 minutes, as easy as possible. Now, we always do them within the first 24 hours. That's the biggest rule of this show. We always do it right away. It's so easy to push things off. Say, I'll start this next week. I'll do it tomorrow. We always start within 24 hours. So with this one, it's going to be tomorrow morning. We all start. The other rule is that we aim for 5 times a week. So 5 out of 7 times a week, we're trying to hit our action. Finally, we always do them for at least a month to start. So before you decide anything, before you say, oh, this isn't working for me, I'm not going to be doing this one, give it a month, okay? It's really easy to start a habit for 3 to 4 days and then just say, okay, this isn't working and quit. When you give yourself a month, you really get to see the effect of the habit. See if it fits into your life, let it kind of have its impact and notice it. Give it a month. The other thing, when we're starting a habit that we're uncomfortable with, it can be a lot easier to continue if we have a set time frame. If we feel like this habit is something that we need to now do forever, that's going to make it a lot harder to stick with in the initial phase. So when you give yourself an end point, you say, okay, I'm only doing this for a month and then I can decide, that changes how your brain sees the habit itself. And it goes, okay, I can do it for a month. That's not too bad. I'll do it for a month, then I can be done, or I can reevaluate. So give yourself a month. And then don't forget to track your habits. So however you want to do that, you could do it on pencil paper, you could download an app, you could download the Grooves app, which I built, or my other new app, which is Habit Empire, which is a more fun gamified app. Whatever works for you, find some way to keep track of these. Now, let's review our monthly stack. So today we added the list of 3 today I will actions with a when, a where, and a most likely obstacle. Last week, we had a nighttime 1-minute activity where we wrote a tomorrow I will list. That was more just top of mind, not thinking about acting, not thinking about how we're going to actually do them, just listing out, here's everything I will. Tomorrow I will. Before that, we decided to begin leaving a water bottle out throughout the day where you can see it, wherever you spend most of your time. And then before that, we began charging our phones outside of the bedroom. So never bringing your phone in the bedroom at night. So that's our monthly stack. Or I guess again from last week, another one of our rules that I didn't mention is we do not add too many habits at once. So always give yourself a few days before adding on a former habit. But this is where we're at. So if you're following along, these are all the habits that you should have adopted at this moment. Now, next week, we're going to discuss an action that literally requires nothing from you and will do you wonders for your motivation and willpower. Stay tuned for that. As always, if you know someone looking to build willpower in their life, share this episode. If you enjoyed it, leave us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and go ahead, follow, subscribe, whatever. Now, the most important thing is that you actually do this action. The sharing and the rating is all great, but whatever you do this action. Big things are coming for you. Stick with me. Keep doing these things, and you will begin to notice drastic changes in your willpower. I will see you next week. Bye, everybody.